Welcome to Scalable and Saleable, where we find what great entrepreneurs have done to scale their businesses into the multi-millions. Stay right here for the next few minutes to leverage validated methodologies for growth and create a way more scalable and sellable business for yourself. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing some of your insights. The first question I like to start out with is, what do you attribute your growth to? You guys just landed a second fastest growing company in all of South Florida. What do you attribute your growth to?
Well, I would say that over the last 4 years, I've just invested a lot of time and energy into developing relationships, whether that be with employees or being with the community and with customers. So through the development of really solid relationships, exhibiting the education that we provide to small business owners and the type of support that we provide to small business owners, helping them scale their business, and our mission being that we are going to get them to where they want to be as business owners. It's just a very attractive prospect for a lot of businesses to be working with someone who is promising to partner with them and is truly committed to that and their mission. So that definitely has fueled a lot of our growth. I also think that, our values and, as a company in educating small business owners and also being one step ahead has played very well to our customer base. We refer to our customers as members, and I think that it's just translating really well. People are appreciating it. The whole mission behind the company was to support small business owners in an area that they don't normally get a lot of support from people who are good quality professionals, which is in the accounting services industry and the finance industry. And it's worked really well.
Yeah, I love that. Your partner's not selling something to them. You're becoming a partner. That's important. I'm sure you've learned a lot from seeing underneath the hood of all these different businesses along the way, based off your past experiences. If you were going to come into some brand new or different business and you got the keys, what would be some of the first things that you think you'd look into to start growing it?
Yeah, so we come into this all the time. So anytime we take on a new member, we do a needs assessment and we review their books. So any business that I would get into, that's where I'm going to go first. I want to look at what the finances look like, how things are structured, and whether or not the way that their financial reports are structured are going to give me the actual insights to how the business is performing and what it's doing. If it's starting from scratch and nothing's been done yet and it's a brand new business, then I would want to talk to the business owner. Or if it was my business, I would sit down, have a meeting with myself and decide where do I want to take this? Because I would want to structure my chart of accounts. I would want to structure all of my financial reporting in such a way that it would make it really easy to report on all of those different metrics. And so that I can easily see all of those things very easily just by a first glance.
Does that mean like building out a really easy to view dashboard of some sort?
So there are tools out there that you can use in order to build in dashboards. But what I find is when you're just starting out or you're a business owner who doesn't have a lot of time or doesn't really have this type of knowledge or skill, it might be easier to just, keep it simple. Think about the basics, like what is the direct cost associated in providing your service, or what is the direct cost associated in selling your product, and create and structure a chart of accounts in a way that makes it very easy and clear to show your profit and subtract out your direct costs so you can get to a gross profit margin. I think there's not a lot of emphasis put on that, and the out of the box stuff that comes with most accounting softwares is not going to structure it in a way that's going to allow for you to see that easily. So that's just one example. But there's other things that business owners should look at that you can very easily get to if you know the formula and set it up correctly.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. What do you feel most small business owners do wrong?
So coming from the industry that I'm in accounting, I find that most small business owners do two things wrong. Number one is they put their financials on the back burner. They don't take the time to set it up correctly from the beginning. It's a huge mistake and it's very costly because all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. Just because you don't sign up for accounting services or bookkeeping from day one doesn't mean that you're never going to have to pay the monthly fee that you're going to need to pay, because you're going to sign up with someone down the road and they're going to back charge you for all of those months that they have to catch up for. So that's number one. Number two is you should be spending your time on what you do best in order to make money. A lot of people don't actually think of fees that they see when it comes to professional services in terms of what is the benefit of me outsourcing this and how much more money could I earn by focusing my attention on generating revenue instead of worrying about cost. And I think that that's a huge mistake that small business owners make. I mean, the first thing that I outsourced as a business owner was marketing. I'm not a marketer. I know what I like and how I like things to look, but I don't know how to execute on it. So the first opportunity I had, I got rid of it and I focused on what I do to make a lot of money and hire more people and grow my business and not have to worry about SEO.
I'm like, preach.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into the next question, is for newer entrepreneurs who are still having to do a lot of stuff on their own. And they're working long hours and meeting deadlines, but not consistently busy enough to be able to confidently start paying other people's paychecks yet. When do you know it's time to add staff?
It's tricky, right? And it's usually always a gamble when you're in your infancy, right? You never know when you're at the point, when you're at the tipping point where you can grow exponentially by handing off some of that work. And it's scary, right? Most entrepreneurs find it really scary to commit to an ongoing monthly expense, to hiring staff, or to outsourcing to professionals, because they're afraid of being locked in or tied into, some sort of ongoing commitment. When in reality, if you never take the jump, then you're never going to grow. Like if there's no risk, there's no reward. I mean, in entrepreneurship, that's the game. So at some point you have to, it's a calculated risk. You look at where you're at in terms of your growth. You look at how much more you could earn by handing off this one piece of your responsibilities to someone else. And does that mean that you'll be able to grow and absorb it? You'll never be in a place where you're going to look at your books and be like, or you look at your financials and say, I can afford this right now, right? It's always going to be you're going to be like right on the cusp. And then you just have to jump. Like, that's just the way it is. But once you do, if you do it right, and if you follow through on all those things you said you were going to do in order to generate more revenue, then you don't have to worry about it.
Right. And not just filling up with more busy work when you've created that little space. Yeah, that's awesome, man. What's been one of the most influential books that you've read or listened to?
So it was a book by Michael Michalowicz. It's called Fix This Next. And it was a great book for me at the time that I read it. There were a lot of problems that I had operationally within my company. And it allowed me to figure out what I needed to focus on fixing one thing at a time. And he really breaks it down for business owners into how to tackle things in ways that make the biggest impact first, right? so that you don't continue to spin your wheels. Because most of the time entrepreneurs get into these horrible cycles where they're just doing work themselves in order to stop a problem in the moment without realizing that if they do it this way, it's going to stop it for good. And that's what that book does. So it was really valuable for me.
Yeah, awesome. That's one you don't hear as often, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back in time to when you first started out and say one thing to the younger you, what would you say?
My God. Well, I would say probably keep doing what you're doing because you're doing everything right. I don't think that I would change the way that I went about doing what I did. I worked really hard. I developed a strong network. I focused on the quality of work, service delivery, and caring about my customers. And I still feel like those were all the right moves. Now, did I
Yeah.
make mistakes? Yes, I made lots of mistakes along the way. Some of them were more costly than others, but at the same time, like I learned a lot from them. Not only can I apply them to myself moving forward into the future, but because I offer and do so much advisory work with a lot of our members, I can apply it to hundreds of other types of businesses as well. So it was an expensive learning curve that I can turn into revenue. And that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can avoid all the pain for so many other people now.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could tell younger you like it's gonna work out pretty good. Keep
Yeah,
doing it.
exactly.
Yeah, that would be
Exactly.
great to hear.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Best decision you think you ever made in business?
Best decision I ever made. Um, well, I think recently, probably the best decision that I made in business was not being afraid to move on from customers who no longer fit with the model that I was building. I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I made and that a lot of business owners make is that, especially when you're in the service business, a service-based business, is that when you're starting out, you need money, right? So it's like, oh wait, you have a checkbook, you have a pulse, like, great, I'll take you, like you're my client, and like you'll take whatever they're going to pay you for. But as you evolve and as you develop and as your model changes, your customers have to come with you. And if they're not going to, then they have to leave because that's no longer who you are. And then they're just preventing the business from continuing to scale. So my biggest the biggest thing that I did recently was I had honest conversations with some of my original customers, some of which had been with me for a really long time, and I appreciate where they got me to. But at the same time, at some point, it was like, well, fees have to increase. You have to accept that the service delivery method is going to be like this. You don't have 24-hour access to me anymore. Just things like
You
that. I
grow
mean,
up.
we grew up, and
Yeah.
it was a good decision.
Yeah, I heard somebody earlier today is talking about swinging from the vines. If you're swinging from one vine to the next vine, but you don't let go of the other vine, you're just kind of sitting there hanging on
Exactly.
to these two vines instead of
That's a great
moving forward.
analogy.
Yeah. Was there any moment as you're making some mistakes, but you're figuring some things out? Was there anything that was sort of like I don't know, for lack of a better word, like a holy crap moment when you kind of got a feeling this is going to be good?
Um,
Or was it
I
just a
think
gradual
I
progression?
think, well, I mean, there was a gradual progression during the early years, I would say. I formed some strategic partnerships that definitely kind of catapulted things a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and that definitely helped. But after COVID occurred, we definitely grew tremendously once that happened. And that was directly related to the fact that so many people needed financial data to apply for government assistance. And we really doubled down on our existing member base and supported them through that process. And we did it in a way that didn't put any sort of immediate financial burden on them in any way. So it was kind of like our investment in our relationship, and it developed like really loyal customers. After that, I mean, we just have progressively gotten better and better at the way that we run our business, the way that we do our model. And I think that's probably the best thing that I can say. That's probably why right now, even though I still have issues and problems, which I probably always will, because that's just part of owning a business.
Yeah.
Everything's manageable, and everything's solvable. And once you get to that point, then the sky's the limit. So I know that we'll be even bigger than we are today. I have no doubt that we're going to continue to grow. I think the way that we grow will probably be different in the future, more gradual, less spiking. I mean, the catapulting that we went through with this second fastest growing company thing. When you grow a professional services company by 350%, it is insane. Professional service companies typically grow fast at 20%. So 350% is a lot of growth in a very short period of time. And I don't know that I would be able to handle it again, personally.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel you. I understand. Any parting words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow?
Yeah, reach out to other entrepreneurs. I think that probably my best piece of advice would be to get involved with community. And I'm not talking about doing networking event where everyone's trying to sell you their services. I don't really think that that's a good use of your time for what I'm talking about. If you need to sell your services, then by all means go to networking events for that reason. But finding a support network of other entrepreneurs who have been there or are going through the journey, just to have someone to talk to. Being an entrepreneur is very lonely, it's thankless, and it's really hard. And most people who don't own businesses don't really understand what that means. They will never understand what that means. And so you really need to connect with and be mentored by people who have been there and are at a different stage of their business. It's so important. So important.
I don't know if you can see, I have like a single teardrop coming down. This is my passion. This is exactly like the whole reason we exist, as a community of CEOs and communities like yours, obviously, as well. So, and thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
We'll fade it to black right there.
Okay.
But yeah, man.
You know what? I just thought about it. I don't think I said my name or my company at the beginning. I don't know if you wanted me
We
to
can put that in, like, we can put all that stuff in at the beginning.
Cool.
And we'll mention, whatever, put like a link in there and stuff like that. We'll post it on LinkedIn and some other stuff. I've got like 30-something thousand followers on LinkedIn. Usually get it pretty
That's
decent.
Great. I have 6,500. I thought that was a lot.
Hey, it is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's funny because LinkedIn has their own little weird things, so you don't know, like, I've had
what's gonna hit and what's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember spending all this time thinking out, like, how did I scale my last company and was able to sell it, and wrote like all as detailed as I could and like into an article on LinkedIn. Nobody really cared. And then about a week later, I posted a drone shot of my wife and I on a trampoline in the ocean, and it was like 10,000 views.
I know. I always get the most traction on my LinkedIn post for like the stupidest crap, like what's your favorite ice cream polls, or like, like just to like see who's like watching, right? That's why I post those. And I get like huge traction on that stuff. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. I remember when those surveys started going everywhere, I asked, like, do you actually fill in LinkedIn surveys? It was like yes or no, and like tons of people answered no, which doesn't make any sense at all. But
right.
What the
hell? You have a survey for the survey.
Yeah, I was like, do you answer surveys, yes or no? And it was like 42% said no, I don't answer these. But that was just purely for my own entertainment. I was probably like bored in bed at night or
That's
something.
exactly what I do. Yeah. When I'm at the gym, like I have these stupid ideas that pop into my head.
Yeah.
Is usually what
And then
happens.
and then like the next morning you wake up and see like, yeah, whatever happened there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I started doing this interview series just to help I mean any business owners, but business owners from startups to making their first million or two. We started a new thing for like the really smaller starting out business owners. I think this kind of stuff is like so helpful for, but we have the founders and CEOs of companies that are already doing primarily between 5 million up to 100 million they've been meeting together in our like higher level CEO peer groups for a while. And it's just for companies that are already like at that level. And that's why when you were saying what you were saying, I was like, oh my God, I was like writing it down.
I just gave you a commercial.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I was like, oh yeah, man, like
Yeah, I truly believe in it. I mean, right now, like I am doing so much, like I can't imagine participating in anything beyond what I'm doing right now. But I'm definitely like coming up in this upcoming year, going to be seeking out some sort of like mastermind group or CEO group, probably just after this upcoming tax season, and getting involved with something like that because I need it.
Yeah, we've got like there's a guy in one of our groups, he just grew from 10 million to 70 million over the last 3 or 4 years.
That's
We had another guy, he grew from 6 million to over 200 million in like 3 or 4 years. Since he was like number
Crazy.
34, I think, on the Inc. 500. We've
Wow.
seen some insane thing because it does work, man. None of them are as smart as a whole bunch of them all combined together. Some of them have grown from, in that 5 to 100 million range to north of 100 million from all the accountability and the outside perspectives. I'm sure you mentioned wanting to scale and continuing to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so
It's funny, we're like in competition with some of these other companies that are in our space right now that are getting these massive valuations and insane investment from everyone's betting on our industry that like AI is going to be super big. And so like our biggest competitor, I would say, is probably Pilot, and Pilot Accounting. They got a massive valuation and investment from Jeff Bezos. So I mean, really insane. Like it's there, and we calculated out like how big they are. Like we know how big they are, and they're not even that much bigger than us. So just the fact that they got $100 million valuation is like insane to us. And we know that most of what they're doing is artificial, but there was another company that also had a massive valuation like that called Scale Factor, and they bombed big time and they gave back most of their investor money. They couldn't make it work. So it's really interesting what's going on in our space right now, for sure.